This is a simple full stack project. We're building a to-do app using FastAPI for our backend and Vue for our front end. So this is going to be the completed project, and here you can get your to-dos page, you can add a to-do, you can delete a to-do, you can edit a to-do, and all of that. So let's just quickly add some few and get to see what we'll be expecting. Here I'm just going to add a title. Let's just say to it. Create a to-do that's been created. You can edit it right there, like mark it's completed and all of that, and you're going to see the data. Now for this project, we are going to be using MySQL and PostgreSDB for the DB. So for those who are Postgres users, you'll be seeing how to connect and integrate with your Postgres database. For those who are MySQL user, you'll be seeing how to connect and use your MySQL. So that's the overview of the project, and let's get into it. We'll be following this simple step out right here. I'm going to share this document so you can get to follow them to make things very easy. Also, the code for this project will be shared when it is completed at our end. So the first we have to do is to be sure that we have terminal installed. I'm going to open my git bash or command prompt or terminal. I'm just going to do Python 3 space double dash version like that. If you have Python installed, it's going to display. If you do not have, you can just search for Python, download, and it's going to take you to a page where you can download the latest version for your operating system. So that's the first thing we have to do. The next thing is to check if you have UV installed. So UV is more like pip, which is a package Python package manager. It helps you to package your application, to build, to manage, and do other things. Just like you have npm in JavaScript, so you also have UV or pip. So pip is something we've been using over the years, and UV it's a more recent and more better package manager. So UV it's what I basically use for all my Python projects. I've migrated my old project from pip to UV, so it's very easy, it's very self-managed, and it's it's a better version of pip. So if for you to be sure if you have it already, just come to your terminal, you can search for UV space double dash version. And if you see something like this, that means you have it. If you don't see anything like this, that means you don't have it. The next thing is for us to go and download it. So again, this has already will be shared also. So you can click on that, and this is the UV installation, or you can go to your Google and search for UV installation or something like that. And again, just take it to this. So if you go to the documentation, you can select your operating system, copy this, paste it on your git bash or your terminal or your command prompt, and it's going to install for you. You can use this other installer like PyP, like Homebrew, some other stuff like that. So that's it. After you've installed it, check the version again, and then let's move on. So the next we have to do is to initialize our project using the UV. Now we have UV installed. We have then move on to initialize our project. Again, I'm just going to be making use of my terminal. I'm going to seed into a folder where I want my projects to be in. I'm just going to create a directory right here. Call it, let me just call it to do something like to do, seed into the directory, and let me run the command uv init, then your project name. That's going to be uv init. Then I'm just going to call this to do backend. This is the backend part, which is, yeah, just enter, and project has been initialized. If I do ls, you can see this is the to do backend right here. Now we're going to head on to open this project in our code editor. So for this, I'm going to be using Visual Studio Code. It's a popular code editor. So I'm going to open it up right here. If you don't have Visual Studio Code, you should download it by saying searching for Visual Studio Code, and click on this, and you're going to get it downloaded right away. So I already have it. I'm going to open it up right here. Click on Open Folder, or try to look for where the project is on your system. Mine was on Tools right here, and that was called Todos, and that was to do backend. So open that project. And if I open the project, I can see this how it is. When you initialize your project, you're going to have this stuff right here. You're going to have your Python version. You're going to have your main.py, which you can run. You're going to have your project, pyproject.toml. This is more like gives an information on your project and also help to house your dependencies right here. Then more like a README stuff right here where you can write some stuff to give more information about your project. So that's it right here, and it's also going to create a Git for us, and you can see the Git ignore right here, and you can track this by using Git, defaultly created. So what we have to do next is to install our dependencies. So again, we have the command right here. We want to have our FastAPI. Again, this is a FastAPI project, and we need to install our FastAPI, which is going to be used as our backend framework. We install our FastAPI using this command. We install the Unicorn server. The Unicorn server is an environment that where FastAPI can run on top, and other dependencies can house or run on top. So it's just like a server that helps to run our Python project. We'll be using ORM, SQL Alchemy. ORM means Object Relational Mapper. It basically helps us to, write SQL script by using our Python code. So by writing a function or a class, is going to convert that to SQL and helps to connect to your database and do other stuff. So basically helps us, instead of us writing our database query ourselves, by writing Python code, it helps to manage our DB. So that's what ORM is, and the most popular one and the commonly used for larger scale project is SQL Alchemy. Then we will be, as we rightly said, we'll be using Postgres as our DB and also MySQL. So for Postgres users, you'll be adding this dependency, while for MySQL user, you'll be adding this dependency. So I'm just going to be showing how to connect both to our database. I'll be using both. Then we'll be using Alembic for our database migration. We'll be using pedantic setting to load our ENV variables into our project. Then we'll be using Greenlet for asynchronous DB query and all of that. So for us to have this dependency, you can either add them one after the other, or you can use this general command right here to install everything. So I'm just going to copy this command right here, and I'm going to come to my project, open my terminal like this, and make sure I'm in the root of where I have my project right here, pyproject.something. I'm just going to do the UV add, and you can see right here it auto created a .venv for me, and my dependencies were added right there, and those were in our .venv. So that's the power of UV. If we're using pip, he will not do that for us. So we have to manually create our environment and then start doing stuff. But by using UV, which is an improved version of a Python code management, it helps you to auto manage your application within an environment. Now we can see this dependency have been added. For me to be sure, I'm going to go to my Py project like that. This file right here, you can see in the dependency part, these are the dependencies that were added for me. So we're going to proceed with the lecture. Let's proceed to, first of all, have a Python extension which is going to help our IDE to recognize and properly format and write a Python code. So in your IDE right here at the left, you're going to see this kind of stuff right here, which is called extensions. Click on that, and you can see some extensions that are already there for me, that's for my IDE. Then moving down, you can see some extensions that are recommended and stuff like that. So what you just have to do is to come to the search right here and search for Python like that. It's going to search the marketplace and pull up some extensions with the name Python. I'm just going to wait for this to do, yeah, stuff like that. So you can see there are some different Python extension right here. So the ones that you should be interested in is this Python right here, the Python from Microsoft. So click on install and install it. Then you also have the Pylance, which is Pylance again from Microsoft. This helps to auto detect Python code and also help for auto importation. If you want to import code from one package to another, this is very helpful and can help you do that. So make sure you add this to your installation. Then lastly, have the black formatter right here. This helps us to auto add indentation to our Python by when we do Shift Command F, help us to format our Python code. So that's basically what this does. Help you format your Python code. This other one is the main one, help recognize that your code is Python, and the Pylance help for auto importation. So make sure you have those ones. You can move forward by having your Python debugger if you want that, or environment, some other stuff like that. You can add them for that. Okay. Also, some students also like to ask which theme I'm using. So for this course, I'm using a very dark theme called Pitch Black theme. I'm using this, it's not really the best theme out there. I'm using this because I'm recording my screen. So I want my code to kind of be a little bit clearer when you're looking at it. So that's why I'm using this. But if I'm working, I like using the Learn with Summit theme. So this is kind of like a very cool theme that you can try out and use. Yeah, so let me just show how this works. If I set this one right here, Dracula, my code is going to be something, I don't know, something like this. Or yeah, something like this. Yeah, let's just take it back to the black one. So, and then you can see so you can, have a better view of my IDE. So that's it. And these are the extensions we need. And what I have to do next is to let me look what I need to do next. I need to run application by using uv run main.py. So when you initialize your project, by default, you're going to see the main.py right here. And it's basically just stuff like this. So these are basically simple. This is to trigger your application to run. And this is basically a function that is going to run, which is being called right here when your app is run. So when you do main.py uv run, it's going to execute this right here. And what this does is it's going to run this main right here, this function. So whatever you have in this function will be run when you run this file. So let's do that. Come to your terminal again. Again, make sure you're in the root of your project and do uv run main.py. Hit enter, you can see, let me zoom this in. Hello from backend. This is being printed out, is coming from this right here. You can see it right here. See, so that means that application was run, and when it was run, this method was called and this was printed out. So that's it, and we're going to head on next to write our .env. We're just going to start something very serious. Let's proceed. We are going to have our DB connection. So right here in my root, I'm just going to right click on it and create a file, call it .env. Again, this file is going to contain our database URL. And we don't really want to expose our database URL because we'll be pushing our code to the public repo. So this will be ignored like that. So this is basically the coding standard. So let me call this database URL. And again, as we rightly said, we are going to be connected to a Postgres and a MySQL DB. First of all, let's show how you can connect to a Postgres database. So I'm going to open my Postgres pgadmin. which helps to connect to my Postgres. And as that is coming up, let me also pull my SQL up right there. Let me also pull my SQL Workbench out right there. If you don't have these, you can easily download them, and they're very straightforward to install. Okay, so yeah, so right here for your database URL for Postgres, let me add a comment right here and say Postgres DB connection. That's going to be DB connection. That's going to be PostgreSQL and plus ASY and CPG. If you are surprised where this is coming from, if you can go back to your library, to your dependency, so to say, you can say there is this ASY and CPG asynchronous Postgres. This is going to help us to connect to our Postgres, while for my SQL user, you have this one right here. So we'll be using that to connect to our Postgres DB. So that's going to be PostgreSQL plus your library, then like double column, double dash, then Postgres, which is going to be your Postgres username, then double column your Postgres password, which is your database password, at your DB URL. Mine is in the whole local host, and then your password, which is 54321 for my Postgres, then slash your database name. So I'm going to be creating a database name called Todos, something like that. So yep, so I'm just going to do that now. Let me not forget. So I'm going to open my pgadmin, come to my server right here. This is my PostgreSQL. Then within my database right here, I'm going to create a new one, which is create a database and call that Todos, something like this. And you can see the owner is Postgres, something. So click on that. Todos has been created. So that's going to be called Todos like that. So let also have connection for the MySQL guys. So this is going to be my SQL DB connection. The same way, let me say database URL equal to, that's going to be, since my SQL, then plus we need to make use of this MySQL library right here, plus this one, then double column slash slash your my MySQL username, which is your database username. Mine is root. Then double column my DB password. Mine is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Kind of very simple. And at my DB link to my database, which is the local host, is currently right here on my laptop. And the port for my DB is 3306. Then slash my database name, which I'm going to be calling Todos. Then I'm going to open my workbench, click on my local right here. I'm going to create a database called Todos, like that. Fire that down, and that has been created. If I refresh, you can see Todos has been created like so, and that's going to be it. So I'm just going to comment this one out first. So let's just leave this one, and we're going to head on to have our config.py so we can inject our this value right here into our application. Currently, our value resides in our .env, which is not yet in our application. So we need to inject this into our application so we can use it to connect to our actual database. So let's do that. I'm going to inject this into my application. And before I do that, let me first of all structure my folder right here. So I'm going to create an app within the roots of my application. And within this app, I'm going to create some folder. I'm going to have my core right there, which will contain my core implementation. I'm going to have my DB, where we'll have my DB connection method. I'm going to have the models right there, which will contain my model. I'm going to have the schema, which will contain my schema, or we call DTO. I'm going to have my router, which will contain my APIs, and I'm going to have, let's say, our server service like that, which will contain our service method. So that's it. And next, I'm going to open to my core right here. And within my core, I'm going to create a new file, call it config.py, and this is going to contain my method, which will help me. Let me rename this correctly. Config. This is going to contain a method that will help me inject my ENV into my application. I'm going to create the class right away, and I'm going to call it settings like that, and that's going to extend a base settings like that. And this should be auto imported for me, but if I click that, I'm not able to import it. I'm going to really show you guys how to do that right away. Now here I'm going to have my base. I'm just going to call this database URL, which is going to be what we have in our .env, and that's going to be database URL right here, which is a reference of that, and that's going to be a string data type. And then I'm going to have my model underscore config. Again, I'm going to import all of these, and that's going to be settings config, and I'm going to say my env underscore file where we are injecting it from is going to be from our .env. Then comma, I'm going to say if there are any extra stuff in my env, ignore them. That's going to be ignore like that. Hope that spelling is correct. Then I'm going to export this and create an object of it by saying settings, small letter settings, so we can differentiate it from this one. That's going to be my settings like that. Just create an instance of it and then export it like so. Okay, now if you can see right here, if I try to click on it and click on dots, I'm not able to import all of these. Click on command dots, I cannot import them. I have to import it manually by coming right here and say import. If I won't say import, I'm not even getting a suggestion. So that means that my project is not able to recognize my Python environment, and I'm not able to make use of import right here. So for us to solve that, first thing we have to do is to come to our file right here, come to your file at the top, come to the code at the top right here, click on settings, click on setting, and right here search for auto completion like that. Then search for auto completion. Then at the tab, click on the user, then look for the extension tab right here. Look for your pylons, which is these pylons right here. Click on the pylons and make sure the enable auto import completion is enabled. That's the first thing, so that you can auto import your stuff when you are writing your code. And the second thing we have to do is to select an interpreter for this project. Currently, we do not have an interpreter selected. So for us to do that, click on command, comma, something like that. Okay, command P, yeah, select, click on, is it command P or shift command P? Shift command P. No, just do command P. Either of them is okay. So do command P like that, and at the top right here, search for Python select. So do stuff like this. Command P, and then search for Python. Say Python interpreter. So you're going to see, where is it? You're going to see, move it this, but you're going to see Python right here. Select interpreter. So click on that. And then right here, you are going to see different interpreter right here from my Python. This one is coming from my, this, what was this called? This, my system. This other one is coming from this folder. We can see there is this one, interpreter 3.14, which is coming from my environment right here, .venv. Let me zoom this, which is this one right here, and from the to-do backend project, which is our project name. So by clicking on this, that means that that interpreter has been selected for this project, and because of that, we'll be able to import things seamlessly. So if I click on command dot right here, you can see import from pedantic setting. So this stuff has come right there. And then if I don't want to do that, I want to type it manually. If I say import, and you can see, if I say import, you can see I'm able to get some Python stuff right there. So that's basically how it's done. So the first thing, again, let me recap. If you're unable to import, is to come to settings right here and click on setting, and then you can search for auto completion. You can see you can import auto completion. The another one is to say Python interpreter. That should be in our environment, not here. So that's going to come right here, and just click command shift command P, and then search for Python interpreter, then click on select interpreter like that, then select an interpreter for this project. So select the one that is within this one right here. You can see this is our project. Select that, and that's going to use interpreter in your VENV right here that was bundled for you to package application. So when that is done, you can seamlessly import and do your stuff. So I can just click right here, dot, this has been imported, click, select this one that's been imported, settings. No, this should be the settings right here. Okay, so that's it. Setting is not defined. Let me format this. Our base URL, our model config, then settings equals to these settings right here. So I'm just going on, this setting should be like this. Yeah, just should be at the base right here. So we can, create an object of it, and then this can be reused. I'm going to head on to have my database connection method. So within my DB right here, this folder, I'm going to create a new file, call it database, BASE, that should be database. Database.py. And again, I'm just going to, first of all, create the engine by say engine. That's going to be, I'm going to use a method called create async engine. Remember, we want things to be asynchronous because our dependency is an asynchronous kind of dependency. So I'm going to just say, first of all, say settings. I'm going to pass in my database URL. That's going to be settings dot, settings is not there. So let me bring it down by importing it. So I wasn't able, let me just come here and say, let me click on this and check if I can import it. I cannot import it. Okay. So let me import it manually. Say from our settings is in our app.core.config, import settings with a small letter S. And then let me also say from SQL alchemy.ext, something like this, dot unasync co import create section create async engine. Now I'm going to say settings dot database URL. By doing this, is going to help get hold of our database URL right here in our .env. Now I'm going to say command, then just say echo to be false. That's not going to print the operations out for us. So then after that, that can probably just put it in a straight line if you want to do that, or let me just leave it as it is. Then after that, I'm going to move this down. I'm going to create a section factory, which will help to create a database instance. So I'm just going to call that async ax, or let me see if I can remember this, async section local, like that. That's going to be async section maker, which I'm going to import right here. Let me import it right here, which is right here. Then I'm going to invoke that and say bind to our ng right here, which we created above. And then comma, I can say expires on commit to be false. So what this means is that this is going to help us create our database section by connecting to our database and helping us create our database instance. And what we are doing by saying expire on commit equals to false, we are basically saying that this is going to prevent your database instance from expiring. Let's say you connect to our database and we'll perform an operation by saving a to-do item on the database or getting a to-do. After a database operation has been performed, do not terminate that instance. That's what expire on commit first. Do not expire that database instance. So I'm going to have a method so we can use to get the database objects by saying def means we are creating a method and say get db. Like that, that's going to help us get database instance. I'm going to say now sync with this one right here, and sync section local. I'm going to invoke it and then I'm going to call it as section, SESSION, and then I'm going to yield by yielding this section like so. This is going to help us get a database section. Like so, when I'm calling this, is basically invoking this, which will now help create an engine, use this engine to access our database URL, create a database instance. And right here, I'm basically calling that instance a section and I'm yielding it. So this is going to help us get our database. Now what I'm going to do next is to try to connect to this database so we can check if we can actually make a connection to our DB from this URL right here. So that will be done. So we're going to do that and try to connect to our DB. So what I want to do is whenever my application is run, whenever my project is run, I want to make connection to my DB and try to access my DB. If the connection is successful, I want to print connection successful. If it's not successful, I just want to print it out. That's going to make us know if we're able to connect to our DB. So within my app right here, I'm going to create my main method by saying main.py within my app right here. So remember, in our root project, we have main.py. This is basically for us to run our app, and then inside our app, I have my main, where we can have my methods to, where we have use my FastAPI to create an object of my application. I can configure my middleware right here and define my router and my API. You can actually do everything in your main right here. But most of the time, it's more appropriate to have a code right here to redirect the run to trigger this right here. So let's just do that. So now within the main of my root project, where we have the, underscore name right here, I'm just going to trigger to run the main in our app. So I'm just going to come right here and say, when your app is run, this main method is run, I'm going to say unicorn. Before, let me even import it. Unicorn, let me see if I can import it I could not import it. Okay, let me just import it manually from here and say import unicorn. Okay, so I'm just going to say, if we remember our dependency, we have our unicorn right there, which is this one right here, basically our server. I'm going to say unicorn. Import unicorn could not be resolved. Okay, that's not my problem. So unicorn.run. Why is this unable to resolve? Let me see. I mean, that starts here. Okay, unicorn.run. I'm just going to check that out. I want to, when you do uv run main.py, I want to use unicorn to run our application, and that's going to trigger our app.main. It's going to trigger our main.py within our app folder. And I want to my host to be 0.0.0, which is going to be, that should be .4, another 0. You can probably use localhost. The reason why I'm using this host is that if you're on your server, your localhost, your host becomes the IP of that server. So wherever I decide to deploy my application, my host becomes the IP of that application, of that server. That's what this is. So if I'm running this on my local machine, my host will becomes 127.0.0.1 or localhost. So that's basically what this means. It's going to pick the IP of wherever you are running this project on. Then I'm going to define my port, which is going to be, let's say 80, 85, I don't know, anything. Then reload, because on a dev mode, reload is going to be true, which means that whenever there's a code change, that should be reload, spell it correctly. Whenever there is a change of code change, we should reload our application. We should just reload. So in a production, I'm going to turn this to false. So that's it. And within my main right here, within my app, in this app folder and my main right here, I'm going to have a method to create my objects and then run it. So I'm going to first of all come down right here and say app equal to FastAPI. And then I'm going to say title of the project can be to do app, anything you want to call it. Then description can be, let me just say, a nice to do app. Then I can pass the version, which can be anything 0.1.1, 0.1.0, does not mean. Then I think that's all we have to do for now. Then I'm going to pass my middleware by saying app.add, there's it, add middleware right here, you can see. And that's going to be, I want to pass my course, CO, capital CORO, SM, this should be imported. I'm expecting this to be imported for me, my course middleware, comma, let me click dots, and that's not coming, so let me just import it from, I think my import is not working correctly, I'm not happy with it, okay? So yeah, so that's the FastAPI, from FastAPI, import FastAPI. Okay, then I'm going to say, okay, that's already been done right here, okay? I'm going to say from FastAPI dot middleware dot course import course middleware. Yeah, that one. Then after that, I'm just going to pass in my origins by saying allow origins. It basically means that where do we want to allow to access these, our backend. We want to allow all endpoints, our origin from everywhere. Then I'm going to say allow credential and then some other allow methods and allow headers. Just do those ones like that. Allow credentials true, allow methods and allow header. Okay. And after that, I am just going to create a simple API by saying app.get. Just create simple get method so we can get to see if this is working. Then when you go to the slash, I'm just going to pass a tags, which is going to be, let me just say, call this root. And then I'm going to create my function, which is called root, and that's going to be, I'm just going to return something by saying, yeah, hello, welcome to your to-do apps, blah, 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 stuff like that. Yeah. Now, that's fine. Now, for us to be able to check if we've connected to our DB, we need to use what we called a context manager or a lifespan. This is going to exist whenever our application is run. So I'm going to come right here at the top right here, before I create my app, I'm going to come and say at asynchronous context manager. I'm just going to import this by importing it from context library right here. And then I'm going to create my function. I'm going to call it lifespan. And I'm going to pass my app to it. I'm going to inject my FastAPI into it. And right here, I want to first of all print to say attempting to connect to DB, something like that. Just want to have some logs. Then I'm going to have my try and catch stuff right there. So what we're basically doing is that we're basically having a try, and I want to just, catch and then throw my exception right there. So that's going to be my exception. And let me import the content engine from our database. That's going to be from our app.db.database import engine, or not engine, not echo, like that. Yeah. Then this test should be imported from typing. Where is it? Should be imported from SQL Academy. Where's SQL Academy? Yeah, that one, like that. It's basically database stuff. So, and then very importantly, try to yield. If you don't yield this, you're not going to, you have a problem. So what we're basically doing right here is this is going to be a lifespan. And for us to use this, I'm going to come to my FastAPI right here. Let me destructure this. And after my version, I'm going to say comma lifespan equal to our lifespan. So what this means is that before an object of my FastAPI is created, it's going to try to connect to our database. And when I'm shutting down my FastAPI, it's going to also shut down like that, something like that. Yeah. So let if we have to shut down, let me if we have to shut down right now. So if we are no shut down, this is going to print this stuff. When we are shutting down, we're going to just close or dispose our database connection. That's what we're doing down right here. Okay. So in as much as our FastAPI is up, our database connection is going to be up. As we are closing down, is going to shut down our server, our database connection, and we're going to print these logs out like that. So this upper one is going to be startup. Let me have the comment up right here to say startup and then shut down. So that's basically it. So let me just try to test this out. UV run main.py, enter. Unicorn, okay, we're unable to get unicorn. I'm just going to check why. Right here, I'm unable to, unicorn is not detected. I'm just going to check why I'm unable to get my unicorn, which is already in my project. So I'm going to check that out, and then we're going to continue. Okay, I think I didn't spell it correctly. Yeah, I think it was spelled uni. I don't really know what the name was, but it's supposed to be UVCon, yeah, not unicorn, UVCon, yeah, okay. So let's do that again. And I just copied the dependency from here. I just copied the name right here, the name, and then I just pasted it here just to be sure that the spelling was correct. Now, let's run that again. Let me zoom this in. Run. Let's wait for the logs to see if it's able to connect to our DB. And unicorn running on this, okay. Where's my DB log? I'm not getting that. So let me see. Yeah, database connection failed. You can see, which is not a problem. So we are unable to connect. Database connection failed. Multiple exception. Let me check what is going on with my DB. It was unable to connect. Let me see. That's one Postgres 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. I think that's my password at localhost 43. Okay, I think my password is 5432. There is no 1 in my password. I just remember. Password is 5432. So let's stop this and try to connect, run again. You can see right now, attempting to connect to DB, successfully connected to database. So we've been able to connect to DB. If I Control C, As I stopped it, we can see stopping in progress, database connection pool cleared. So when I stopped my DB, it cleared my connection pool. Now, if I try to pass a different database name and I try to restart, you can see database connection failed because this database does not exist. It is very clear error, very clear right here. All right, so that's it. And I'm just going to test for the MySQL connection. So for our Postgres users, let's try to connect with you. I'm just going to, for our MySQL users, so to say, and I'm just going to come to my MySQL and make sure I have the to-dos database created. I'm going to come right here and Control C to stop this, clear this up, and then uv run main.py. Make sure you have your MySQL stuff. Let's just test this out and attempt it to connect. Let me see. It's going to try. Let's wait for it to do its stuff. You can see successfully connected to my database, which is the MySQL one, as we can see right here. So this means that both of our DB connection worked correctly, and we're just going to head on to, let me see, we're going to move on to have our model and then our ORM. So that's going to be like this. Within my model right here, I'm going to create my model. I'm just going to create a file, call it todos.py. I said todos.p, that's a little bit of weird stuff. todo.py, so let me break this down and zoom that a little bit up right here. So create my class, and that's going to be called base, and that's going to take a declarative. This is supposed to auto import for me, declarative base. I don't like when I type stuff. So let me try to import that again. It's not able to import. Now, so let me import it manually, which I hate doing stuff. I hate importing manually. I think that's the shortcoming of using a hybrid editor. So I'm just going to say from SQL alchemy.orm import declarative base like that. Okay. Yeah, this one. Okay. After I've done that, I'm going to say pass. This is very important if you're using MySQL, if you're using SQL Alchemy, which is the most popular ORM, for when you're writing your model, you have to create a declarative based object, which will then be injected and used subsequently. So this is the first thing you have to do. Just create your base, pass in your declarative base. This is going to be your declarative base. So just unfortunately, that's how things are done. Now, let me have my to-do model now. I'm going to call it to-do, and this is going to pass in my base, which again is going to be the declarative base, passing down. And here, I'm going to say underscore table name equal to-do. So this is going to be the name, the table name that will be created for us in our DB. So that's going to be the name. Then I'm going to then pass in my field, which is my ID, and that's going to be mapped. Okay, I need to import this mapped something here, mapped like that. So that's going to be a string, and that's going to be an data type integer, which is our ID, and that's going to be mapped underscore column, which I need to also import right here. Mapped underscore column. So what this does, it is help to create a column for us. I'm going to invoke it like that. So it helps to create a column in our database table for us with the name ID. And right here, I'm going to proceed to say primary key to be true, which means that this is going to be our primary key. And then I'm going to say auto increment to be true, which means that this will be self-managed. We have no business, messing around with this ID. So that's going to create a column in our database. It's going to create a table for us called to-dos, and within that table is going to create a column for us called ID. Let's create other column, which is going to be the title of our to-do. And again, we already know what that is. That should be a mapped. And then again, you can say mapped string data type. I'm just going to say optional of string data type string. Optional means that it can be null. It can either be a string or a none. Or or you can say, if you don't want to use optional, you can say string or none. It's okay, same thing. This is just a modern way to write it, while the optional is for the older ones, for those who are using a Python which version lower than 12. So this is going to work. But for a more modern version, you use this one right here. Where is it? I'm just going back and forth. You use this one right here. Yeah. But who are going to work correctly? So again, this is going to be a column. So let's just invoke the mapped column so you can convert this to a column for us. So I'm just going to copy this and paste so I can have other fields up right here. And then this is the title, and let's also have a description for the next one. This again is going to be optional. And yeah, should I even I think the title should not be make optional. The title should be mandatory. So let me just remove optional from the title. You must pass in a title so we can make the description optional. So I think this is the best logic. So I'm going to have the is completed, which is going to help us to check if our to-do is completed. And this is going to be mapped by, and that's going to be a Boolean data type, true or false, and mapped column. And I'm going to say the default for this value should be, let's say false. I wanted to say true, let's say false. So if you are creating your to-do item, the is completed should be false by default. Now let me have the other field, which is going to be the date it was created. That's going to be created at, and that's going to be data type date time. That should be imported from date time, as we can see right here. And equal to mapped column, very important. And I'm going to have a default value by saying server default equal to a function, and dot now is going to get the current time and then set it as it created at. So let me also copy this and have the updated at, which is going to be the date time you updated it to do. So updated at again is going to be a date time, and mapped column, which means that we are creating a column on our database, and that's going to be server default equal to function dot now, which is correct. It's going to create this. I'm just going to say this should be update. This should only update when there's an update. An update equal to function func func.now. So what this does is that if you create an object of a to-do, the updated add value is going to be the current time. Whenever you're updating that to-do item, this on update will be triggered, and then the current time as at that time will then be the new value of the updated add. So that's it for our to-do, and this is how ORM work. And by doing this, is going to auto generate the necessary SQL queries for us that will help us to auto create a database in our table called to-dos, help us create the columns, and also help us with the necessary code that can help us to add data, update data, and do other stuff. So we're going to head on to have our schema set up. Let me head on to have my schema. So schema, it's more like a DTO, or what we call a data transfer object. So it's basically going to be the class that will be used to receive the object to create a to-do, or we want to use to return a to-do response back to our API. So let's do that. That's going to be within the schema right here. I'm going to create a new file, call it to-do, and all files should end in .py. So here I'm going to have my class. I'm just going to call it to do base. This is going to be used to create a to do and do all the stuff. So it's going to expect a base model. It's going to help us to register this as a schema, and It's going to have a title, which is a string, and then a description, which is also a string too. And because the description is going to be optional, I'm just going to say it should either be a string or it should be none, like that. And by default, let's make it to be none. Yep, so that's going to be our base. And let's also have to update our to-do. So that's going to be a class. If we want to update our to-do, we're going to be using this second class to collect the response or the request. We're going to use it to collect the request, and that's going to be to-do, no, to-do model, not base exception. What's that? To-do model, and I'm going to have my title, description, and is completed. All of these will be optional, which means that you can decide to update your title or the description or the is completed. And here I'm going to have something called model config, and that's going to be just any additional thing you want to do, which is going to be config dictionary, and that's been imported. Any extra thing you want to do, we can have them within this configuration right here. For example, we can say, I want to enable, camel cases. By default, if you are using this without any of this, you can, in your body, you have something like is completed. But we can say allow user to also say is completed. This is camel case. So I want users to also be able to receive a camel case request from the front end. I'm just going to say alias generator, and that's going to be to underscore, where is it? To camel, like that, where is it? Equal to camel. I need to import this one again. That's import it from alias generator. So I'm going to say from pedantic dot alias generators, then import to camel. We also have to Pascal. You can see Pascal to snake, stuff like that. So yeah, so let me just get rid of this. This will help us to pass in a camel case. We have to convert this snake case to camel case. You can also have order by saying populate by name and other stuff, just have them up like that. Okay, so let's also have a class that will be used for response. That's going to be to do response. And again, this is expected. This is going to have everything in our to do base right here, which is the title and the description. Let me copy the to do base here. And in addition to the to do base, which means that in addition to the title and description, I also want the ID also to be a part of the response. And then also want is completed, and then is completed, created out, and then updated out. So I'm going to import the date time like that. So this is going to be our schema. And we'll be using these to receive the body to create a to-do. We'll use these to receive the request to update a to-do, and we'll use these to return a response whenever we've, done something. Whenever we've gotten the response from the DB and want to return the object, we use this to return. So also, a best practice is for us to have another file which will be used as a generic response. So we want to have a wrapper that will be used for all API response. That's going to contain the status code, the message, and then the data. The data in this case is going to be the to-do response here or any other thing. So within my schema, I'm going to call this response. Again, .py, and first of all, I'm going to have my type variable like this. Again, you're not to complete it. Okay, I think that's better. And that's going to be a T. And then I'm going to have my class. And that's going to be an API response. Call it an API response. And it's going to take in a base model from pedantic, and then a generic from typing. And then that's going to be of T, type T, and that's it. So what fields do I need? And that's gonna be, yeah, it's everything right here. Everything is right. So what field do I need? I need the status and then the message and then the description. So let's have it up right there. The status, the message, the data, and yep. So what's this? Our type var should be imported from typing, not AST. So remove that one. Put the comma right here. It should be imported from typing, our type var. Okay, so I can add some model config right here again as usual and say config dig like that, not like dig, but I mean dictionary. So I'm just going to say from attribute true and exclude none to be none. So exclude none means that if there are any of these value whose data is not there, then do not add it along with the response. So that's it for that. And what should I do next? We need to head on to have our service class. Let me see. Okay, now before we have our service class, let's persist this data. Let's persist this so that if we go to our DB right now, if I say select, no need for select all from to do's like that, you can see there's no, I don't have my table is empty right now. So let's persist this data. Let's perform a migration so that this model right here can be created. This table can be created in our database so we can get to move on. Let's perform our migration. And again, the first thing for me to do is to just run this command, uv run alembic init, then you dash t, then you can pass in what async, then call it migration. So when you run this, it's going to generate some folders and some file for us, and we're going to see. Let me close all of this for now, close all, and yeah, let me also close my app too, so we can get to see the changes. So within your terminal, paste it right there, or you can write it out. Let me zoom it. Uv run alembic init dash t asynchronous migration, enter, and it's going to create a migration folder for me right here. And then you can see the alembic.ini file. We don't really have to mess with this, leave it as it is. And in this migration right here, let me put it down. Within the migration folder, open the migration right here. You're going to see env.py. Click on this right here, and then we're going to, just do some little modification right here. So we down after this config right here, I'm just going to say config dot set main option, and then I'm just going to say SQL alchemy. That's going to be, you can remember we're using SQL alchemy as our ORM. So SQL alchemy, which are ORM dot URL, and I'm going to say settings. Let's get our URL, settings dot database URL. This setting should be small letter s. That should be small letter s right here. The object of the settings coming from our config within our app. If we can remember, call this one right here, so we can get hold of this our DB URL. So that's what we need to do. Then that's the first thing we need to do. I can just add a comment right here to say I added this. I done something just to be sure, so we can. So when you look at my code, you can get to see the one I added and the one I say. Let me say we added this. Then after you've done that, the second thing you have to do is to register your model. You can see down right here. We are being told that add your model metadata object here. For auto-generated support from this, this is just like the default one that was created for us. We need to modify this and add our own. So I'm just going to say, I modified this. We modified this just to say the ones we did two and then one, just to show the changes that we made. So for this one, I'm just going to uncomment these two out, down, and then this is going to be from my model right here. Let's import it from app.model models. This is our model. Import, our model was called Todos. Then right here, I'm going to say metadata is going to be the Todos dot base dot metadata. You can get rid of this one down. No, okay, so that's just what we need to do. Just this one and this one. That's all. Okay. So that's it. And after you've done this, let's perform a migration. After we've done this, I have the directions right here. The next is for us to execute this command to create our migration, and then we can persist it to our DB. So I'm just going to copy this right here. There's no need for us to type it. You can go on the AI platform, just type, migrations in FastAPI using SQL or RM. Is going to show you the command. So we don't need to have that in mind. Just copy that, and again, I'm going to pull this up right here. Clear this, paste it right there. Run UV run Alembic revision, auto generate initial migration. You can say initiate, anything you want to call it. Enter. And you can see it has created some kind of crazy schema table for us, which has not been persisted. If I come right here and I execute this or I refresh, it has not been persisted. You just have the Olympic version, which has been generated for me. So I need to persist this to my DB. I'm going to come right here and run this command. Very simple. And paste it right there. UV run Olympic upgrade head, enter. And that's going to, okay, virtual require length of, okay, I'm having a problem with my migrations. Okay. Yep. So that means my primary key is not okay. I need to make modification to my model right here. So come to my to-dos right here. Let me look at the problem I'm having here. And primary key is mapped by an integer. Okay. Primary key should be true. Auto increment should be true. Okay. All right. Let me see. Which other problem? Let me look at the error. I think the error is a little bit crazy. Let me just copy the error and ask my Gemini AI to help me, make do justice to it. Copy it right there. Copy my model as well. And let me just see what's going to tell me. The core problem is asking me table title virtual require length of, okay. So it's telling us to, let me see. So it's telling us to specify a character right here to the title, okay? You can see this is it. We are told to specify for a mapped column, we are told to specify a character, something like that. So I'm just going to, let me see, I'm just going to do that. So copy this one right here. Let me just type, I don't need to copy it. Let me just type string and then your character right there, okay? So come back right here and say for the column, the title, I'm going to say string, which is from Ask SQL Academy, and then my total value for the title should be 255. That should be the length. For my description, I'm going to say string. The total value should be like 1000. For the total character in my description, I want it to be 1000. So that's it. We need to do this again, and I'm going to perform the migration again. Let me clear this, and then let's do that again. We need to perform a new migration. So copy this, generate migration schema. Let's have a new migration and then call it initial migration. Just say updated. It's gonna create a new migration for me, which is error failed, target database is not up to date. Okay. We assume non-transactional. Okay, let me just don't really want to waste time there. Let me just don't want to debug that on my own. Let me need a helper, a helpmate to help me debug this. Okay, delete or broken migration stuff. Let me see. Okay, run this. Okay, let me see. Drop. Okay, we need to SQL. Okay, we need to drop the existing migration. Okay, let me do that. Come right here. This is the existing migration file right here. Let me delete it. Drop it. Drop table. Is it? Yeah. So let me delete the existing migration file. Let me perform the migration again. That's what AI told me. So let me perform the migration again. Fail target database is not up to date. See the same thing. All right. So let me see. Let me see. Okay, let me do that again. Target DB. So let me refresh this DB. I think that was removed. So what's the problem? Refresh this right here. Okay, refresh this right here. Table. The table was, I think the table was not removed. Let me drop table again. Drop now. Right. So let me refresh. Yeah, I think that has been dropped. Okay, so let me do that again. Perform migration again. Enter. And okay, let me just move on. I'm still getting the error. Let me just do this to persist the stuff like that. Let me see. Okay, again, I think this was not properly done. Let me refresh this. Let me drop. Okay, table. And then drop that table. Now refresh. Table is gone. Okay. Yep. So let me clear this up and do that again. And let me say new. So we're still having the error. Let me see. Let me run this one right command right here. Okay. Kind of a little bit creepy. Let me run this one. And let me get rid of the head right there. Let me remove the migration. Let me remove this migration right here. Okay, let me just tell AI this is what I found, then you can help me remove it. Okay. Yep. Say, can you remove the migration so I recreate it? Something like that. Delete the migration file. Okay, I don't really like doing this, but let's just delete the migration file and let me see. Yeah, that migration file has been deleted, so not the entire folder, that particular file. So let's create it again. And let me see my database table. Yeah, let me remove what I have right here because this is always generating a migration for me. Let me drop this one. Does not really mean, but yeah. So I've removed the old one. Let me generate, initiate the migration again. This one. Okay, that's generated, and let me run the head like that. You can see migration was successful if I come to my DB and I select off from to-dos. What's going on? Let me refresh this one. Tables right here, and you can see I have my to-dos. It was actually called to-dos. Yeah, select off from, I didn't specify the database name, which is to-dos. That's kind of, I don't know. That's okay. That's a little bit weird. Yeah. So right now our migration is successful and we can see that the database was persisted. So the problem we had was very simple. When I created my database columns right here, Title description, I didn't specify the value that the column should, especially for a string data type, you need to specify the maximum value that can be stored right here. If you're using a MySQL, but for a Postgres, it does not really mean it default to, I think, to this value for Postgres. So this should be done for MySQL people, so you can do that. So let's do the same migration for a Postgres. So I'm going to change my ENV to Postgres, so we can target the Postgres DB. If I come to my Postgres right now and I Todos and I refresh and I come to my schema and I come to my tables right here, you can see there's nothing right there. So let us execute this query and say let me say new, something like that, and that's been okay. The database up to date. Okay, let me just upgrade this head so you can, you can make use of that. So execute that, and that's been done. So let me check my Postgres now. If I refresh, you can see my to-dos right now has been created. As you can see, if I open my my Postgres query 2, not that one. If I open this query 2, which is the query 2, I say select all from to-dos. You can see now my table is there. So this has worked correctly. We're going to head on to have our service method and then our API. Then we test this out and then we head on with our front end. So let's head on to have our service. So again, within my app right here, I'm going to my services right here. And I'm going to create my service class. I'm just going to call this todos.py. And that's going to contain some of my, I'm going to have a method. I think we've been using to do all the time. Let me just call it to do underscore service to a little bit. I mean, we've had too many to dos, so to do underscore service like that. That's a little bit better. And we're going to be having method to get all the to do, to get a to do by ID, to create and then to update a to do and then to delete. So it's kind of very fun. So create a method to get all your to dos and call it get all to dos like this. What you need to do, you pass your database, which is what we remember. We want to have access to our DB to, be able to connect to our database and get our to do. So I'm going to import this right here, and that should be imported from our SQL Alchemy .ext.asynchronous stuff like that. And this method is expected to return, which is dash arrow. It's expected to return a list. A list should be from your typing when you want to import it. It's expected to return a list of to-dos. No, let's not use capital letter L. Let's use small letter list. I'm just a little bit list, yeah. List of to do, which is going to be to do, which is from our schema. Or okay, let's say from our to do, our database. So we're accessing DB right here. So here I'm going to say results, which is going to be result from our database query. That's going to be we are awaiting our database dot execute, and I'm going to have my select, then want to select to do, which is our model, to do dot where, then the where's my to do, where to do dot id is equal to, am I sure I'm doing the right thing? No, I'm not doing the right thing. I think I'm a little bit lost right here. So I'm actually writing a query to get a to do by ID. So to get all to do, that's going to be await db.execute select to do. That's going to be order by select to do dot order order by should autocomplete. What's going on? Dot order by, that's going to be to do dot created at dot descending. Want to get the latest to do first. Let me invoke the descending like that. And then I'm going to return the list of everything. That's going to be the results. Then dot scalars. Is this? Yeah, scalars. And then I'm going to invoke that and say dot all, and then invoke that method. So let me just explain this. So what basically doing is we are waiting because it's actually an asynchronous operation right here. We are waiting, we are having connected to our database. We are accessing the existing database section we have, which was created when our app was run. And we are basically saying that the database.execute, we're executing this command. Everything right here, it's a command. And what's the command? We are accessing our database table by saying select to do, which is our database name. And we are getting all the value from our DB. And we are ordering them by, it created that we're getting the latest value first. So which means that if we have 1,000,000 data, we are getting the last one, the latest data that was added first, and that will be returned right here. And we're just getting all the value and returning it right there. So this is expected to return a list of the to-do right here. So that's it. So let's also have to async def, which is a function to get a to-do by ID. And then that's going to take in this right here. Let me just copy this database here. And since we want to get a to-do by ID, we need to also pass the to-do ID, which is going to be an integer. To-do underscore ID, which is an integer like that. And then this is going to return a to-do, just one object. So again, I'm going to have my result set, which is going to be results, which we are waiting, our db dot what's going on right here, execute, and then I'm going to say select. What do you want to select? Access our to-do database, and then I'm going to say dot where, which means that we don't want to get everything, we want to get particular data, dot where, and what we want to do, we'll say where the to-do ID, which we want to get, is, let me even do this right here, is equal to the to-do ID that we are passing in. So I only want to get the to-do whose ID is equal to the ID that is coming in. So that's going to get that item. I'm going to say to-do now equal to the results which we've gotten from our dp.scalar1 or none. Invoke that. And if there is none, if not to do, if we do not have that item, I'm just going to raise a HTTP exception. Else, I'm just going to return the data. So HTTP exception should be imported from FastAPI, which is this one right here. And status should be imported from FastAPI 2, which is going to be, where's the FastAPI, comma, status, like that. Import, why am I importing select? Select should be coming from the SQL Academy. Just going to say from, this is wrong. This is going to be from SQL Academy import select. So also be careful on where you are importing your stuff from, okay? So we will not, get into problem. So what's this one? Schema, no, we don't need this one. So that's it. And let me just call it to do data like that, data like that. Okay, so this is going to help get a to-do by ID, which is an individual to-do. And let's also have a method to create a to-do. So that's going to be moving down right here. And async function and call that create underscore to do. And again, that's going to take in our DB data like this one. DB data, which is this one. And then comma, we need to also pass in the to do object, which is going to be, it's a to do to create. Let's just call it that way. And that's going to be our to do base, which is from our schema. So let's not forget that. And then I'm going to, what's this going to return? This is going to return the created to do, which is the to do. So moving down, let me move this a little bit back. Now what do I want to do? I'm going to say new to do equal to do. Then I'm just going to use this and say to do dot create dot model dump. Model dump. So what this model dump means is that in this our object which we are passing in the to do is going to collect the ones that have data and is going to convert them to this right here. So if there's any data that, oh, I'm not supposed to click on this one. So if there's any value here that is not present, or if there are extra fields that do not correspond to our to do object right here, it's going to ignore them, pick the one that is there, and then convert it and populate it as this to do right here. So that's what this model dump does. Just a straight way to just say, if you have a title, add it. If there's no description, remove it. Just a straightforward method. So after I've done this, I'm going to then persist this to my DB by saying db.add. And then I'm going to say, what do I want to do? Add a new to do, which is this object right here, to our DB. Move this down, which is this one right here. Now you've done that, what do I want to do? I'm going to await the result by saying db.commit. So commit is that I'm going to persist the data into my database. And I'm going to await another thing by saying db.refresh. And then that's going to be the new to do. So that means that this new to do right now is going to be the to do that has been saved in our DB. So all the value you have right here, the existing value of this new to do object will now be the value that was committed in our DB, including the ID which was saved. Remember, this did not contain the ID. The new to do had no ID. But right now, as we are refreshing it, we are passing in the saved ID down to it. So then I'm just going to return the new to do like so. And that's pretty cool. So that's it to create to do. Let's also have to update a to do. This is going to be very straightforward, just as we did. And it's going to take in your DB and then your update to do data. So let me just copy this one right here and then say to do to update, something like that. And this is going to return a to do for me. So right here, as we did before, I'm going to first of all say to do to, let me just say existing to do, existing to do. That's going to be, I'm going to await my database, which I'm going to be using to update to do. I'm going to say await. As a matter of fact, if I'm passing in my DB, I need to pass in the to do ID because I want to update a to do. So I'm just going to say to do underscore ID, which is an integer, like so. So await this method get to do by ID, which we created above, get to do by ID, passing your DB and then passing the to do ID. This is going to help get our existing to do if it's there. And then I'm going to say update data, which is to do to update, like that. That's going to be to do to update dot model dump. We already understand what model dump is. And then I'm going to pass a query to say exclude onset to be true, which means that if there's any value that were not set in the to-do base, is it to-do base? I think this should be to-do to update, not the base. So this should be to-do to update here. Yeah. So if there's any value in the to do to update data that we are not passing in, let's ignore that. That's what this does. I'm going to remove those value and set it as the updated data. And then I'm going to, just update it right away by coming right here and say, that's going to be existing to do. That's on for key in updated data.items, which is all of these. We are setting the attributes right there, committing it and then refreshing it and then returning it. So this is just going to help us update our to-do. Lastly, let me quickly have to delete our to-do. It's very straightforward. I'm just going to have it up so we will not waste time. So that's it to delete a to-do. What are we doing? We are passing the to-do ID and we're basically getting the to-do by ID. After you've gotten it, I'm just going to say db database.delete that to-do we've gotten. Is going to remove it from our database. We're going to commit and return nothing. So that's it for our service. And what we have to do next is to have our API or our router, which we then pass where we call this service from. Now for us to have our route, I'm going to close all of these so we can have some breathing space. And right here within my panel, I'm going to go to my router right here. I'm going to create a new file. I'm just going to call this todo underscore API.py. This is going to have contain our API. And it's going to be very straightforward. The first we have to do is to create our router object by saying router, which is going to be API router. Import it from FastAPI, API router right here. And then I'm going to say my prefix equal to, it can be anything, let's say /to-do. So what it means is that before I do that, let me add a tag, which I'm just going to call to-dos. So what this prefix means is that if you go to your URL /to-dos, it's going to call whatever you are going to be having right here. Now, before we proceed, we need to tell our main app where our router is, where our API is. So I'm going to come to my main right here, the main within the app, and I need to register this route. Remember, this is now our API. We need to register these in our app so we can get to know where we can forward requests to that stuff. So I'm going to come right here and register the router and say below the middleware right here, I'm going to say at app, let me just say app dot include router, and that's going to be to do underscore router. Before I will do that, let me even import this router right here. So that's going to be, let me import it right here. So that's going to be, say, to do router. That's going to be from app dot routers import to do API. So that's going to be right here. So do API dot router. So this is going to help us to register. Very, very important. So you have to, let me add a command, say register your to do router here. Yeah. So if you don't do this, there's no way the application will be able to access this router right here. Okay. But registering that router, if any route goes to /to-dos, is going to get to know that and then trigger this, like that. So let's continue with our method. So first of all, let's have a method to get all the to-do. So that's going to be at router. Why am I using at router like that? Make sure your notation is at router dot what do you want to do. a get request. So if this is a get request and the path is the root, that means if you on localhost 8085 slash todos, and this is the root right here, then you want to do something. First of all, the status code for a successful response is going to be status. This status should be coming from FastAPI right here. Status should be status dot http 200 dot OK. So a successful response will be a 200 OK. Then let's have a method like that, which is going to be a get request. They say, let's call the function name get to do's. And then this is expected to take in our DB, which is going to be an async, our async section like that. And that was being imported from, let me import it, say from SQL academy.ext dot async cio, something like that. Import your async, this one right here, async section, this one. Okay, so this is going to be passed in, and I'm going to say equal to the value of this database is going to be, say, depends, which is going to be FastAPI, is going to be the get underscore db from our database. Okay, so that is it. And one little problem, this depends right here should be, yeah, it should be there. So that's fine. Okay, so then this is expected to return something. So I'm going to say it's expected to return an API response of a list. This should be small letter. I'm always fond of having capital letter. If a list of to do response like that, plus list of to do response like that. And I'm going to say to do's equal to await our to do service dot get or to do's, and I'm going to pass my database down like so, and then I'm going to return the data by building my API response and saying the status is going to be status dot http 200 dot OK. What's going on? http 200 dot OK. And then I'm going to say the message will be to those cutting, will be anything you want to pass in. And then the data right now is going to be the to-dos we've gotten from our service, which is going to be the to-dos like that. So that's it. Again, let me destructure this so I can explain this properly. Now, what we have right here is that this is a route, which is a get request. We are basically subscribing to this base router right here and saying when a get request is coming in and is within the root of your application, if it's a successful one, the HTTP status should be success. Now, this, when the request is coming in, this is what should be, method that should be fired. The first thing you have to do is to get the database instance and then set it as DB, which is an asynchronous section. get the database section, the existing database section, which is the connection to the database, get hold of that database, save it as the DB, and you are expected to return an API response of a list of to-do response. Now that you've gotten the database instance, call the to-do service and then pass the database down to the get all to-do method. This is going to use the database instance to access our DB to get all the to-do and then return it right here. Now that we've gotten the to-dos from our service method, want to build the response, we're basically building the API response. We are passing the status right there, the message, and then the data, which is going to be our to-do. Remember, our API response was what we built in our response, and we basically said that all our API should return this method right here, should return an API response, all our API. So whatever, either you are doing a delete request, a get request, a post, this should be the format of the response we will be returning so we can structure our app properly. And that's what we are doing right here. So that's it for getting to-dos, and we're going to be very fast to have a method to save a to-do. I'm going to call that post a to-do. So we've kind of, done a lot of talking right here. So let me just be very fast with this one. And this has been pre-done quickly. And that was to create a to-do. So again, we're basically saying router.post. If this is a post request, then passing the to-do base. The to-do base is basically the body that we pass down from our API, either from your front end right here. It can be the body coming from your front end to add a to-do, title, description. This will be bundled into a base to-do, which is this one right here. Where is it? Base to-do and passed in. Then again, we are getting the database instance and saving it as DB. Both of these data would be passed to the create to-do method of the API service, which will then use that to create a to-do. And after that, it's going to return the new to-do created as new to-do. Then we're going to bundle this new to-do into our API response, passing the status code, the message, and then the created to-do, and then we return it right here, which can then be returned back as a response of a successful to-do creation. That is it. Let's also have to get a to-do by ID, which again is very fun. This will get a to-do by ID. Again, it's a get request. When you go to your get request and you pass in the ID to the URL, which we usually call the parameter, and it's going to call the get to do method. And again, we are passing it to do ID, and then we are getting the database instance. Both of these will be passed down, and we'll call the method to get it to do by ID. If the data has been gotten, we're going to return this API response down. Let's also have to update a to-do, and then we have to also delete a to-do. So same way, very simple. The only change is the object that we're passing at the body and then the method. So this is going to be to update a to-do. Again, the method, it's a put request. And if you go to users go to /update, then the ID is going to be passed down, and then we are collecting the ID right here, which is being passed down. And we are also collecting the body of the to-do to be updated, which is the to-do update. And the database session is being created and passed down. And these three data will be passed down to the update to-do method. They will be worked on, and the resulting data will be bundled into the API response and then returned successfully. Now, let's also have to delete a to-do, which is the last one. And that's it right here. Again, it's a delete request, and this is the part. Part can be anything. And then we are passing the to-do ID one to delete, and then the database section, which we are getting and pass it down. It's going to make use of the to-do ID, and we delete the to-do with this ID by calling the delete to-do from the service method. So that's it for our API. And we're going to head on to test this out. To test this out, I'm going to first of all run my application. Again, before you do that, always make sure that your router or your app has been registered in your main. So if you've not done that, come to the main.py within the app folder, add this stuff right here, app.include router, and then your API, then the router. So I'm just going to run my app by using uv run main.py. Okay, we're having problem with, we are not able to run this. Let me complete model class and stuff. Okay. Yeah, I think I'm importing some wrong stuff right now. I might not be able to check everything. So let me just tell, okay, pedantic v2. I think I'm having some crazy stuff. Let me see what the problem is. And then we know what to do. So let me come to my service right here. Go over the error and see what is going on. Okay. All right. So import datetime. Okay, you're probably okay. I'm not importing the datetime correctly. Okay, probably, yeah, that's correct. I'm not importing the datetime properly. So let me look for where that problem is, and let me see. Come to my API. No datetime is there. Come to my service class. No datetime is there. Come to my module, which is my schema. Yeah, this is it. So schema, this is it. So yeah, use import from datetime, import datetime. So this is how it should be. So again, Control C, clear this kind of creepy stuff. And let me clear this up again. Close all. uv run main.py. Everything has run correctly. So let's test this out. I'm going to be using Postman. Postman is a testing client for us to test. So I'm going to use Postman. I'm going to come right here and create a, let me say create, I don't know. I want to create a new collection, I'm going to call that to do, like that, or to do's. Then right within that collection, I'm going to add, this is the folder, right? I'm going to add a new request, and I'm just going to call it get all to do's, like so. Again, our port is running on, our app is running on port. What's the port? Let me see, 8085. So that's going to be localhost 8085 8080 slash to do slash just to do's, and that's a get request and send. Yeah, all our to do have been fetched, but we have no data, which is empty. The API have worked. So duplicate this and let me add a to do right here. That's going to be a post request, and that's going to be called add to do, and that's going to be a post request. And I'm going to click on the body right here, click on the raw, and here should be the JSON selected. And let me allow this to load. Then create an object, which is like a JSON dictionary object, and that's going to be the title. I can just say that's comma, and I can add a description. Yeah, let me just say title should be to write some code, or to write some code. Description is probably, I don't know, so I can learn to code, something like that. Yep, so click on send. You can see to do created. Let's create more. So visit grandma added to, let me see, this time around I want to pass a description. Let me say to eat burger, and then to watch football. Yep, so if I try to get all to dos again, we can see we have some pretty data up right here, which is a little bit. We have our title, description, the is completed, the created, the updated at. So let's also have to update to do, which is going to be update to do. That's going to be a put request, and the path should be slash to dos slash the to do one to update. Let's update the first one, and then click on the body raw, the JSON right here, and then I just want to update the description only, and that should be an description, and then say I was updated, something like that. Send, method not allowed. Okay, let me see what is the problem. Come to my API right here, router, and to update a to do, that should be, let me see, that should be slash update. So I didn't pass that correctly. That should be slash to do slash update slash the ID. Send, to do updated successfully. I was updated. We can see the value right here. So let's finally delete a to do, delete to do, and that's going to be a delete request. And that's going to be slash delete slash, that's going to be to do ID2, or let me delete the first ID1, to do ID1, send, to do deleted. If I try to delete it again, you can see to do not found right here. So let me get it to do by ID. This is going to be the last, and let's get to do by ID, and that's going to be slash to do slash one. That's going to be get request. Send, to do not found because it was recently deleted. So let me get to do two. Send, and to do has been retrieved. So if I try to get out to do's again, that's bam, I have all the item. If I go to my DB and I try to get all my to do, you can see they are both right there, seated right here. So that's it for our to-dos. Our app has worked correctly, and we're going to head on to have the front end implementation. So let's head on to have the front end in Vue. I'll go to my browser and go to Vue.js.org. This is the official documentation for Vue, and I'm going to click on Get Started right here, and that will take me to the doc. So I'm going to scroll down like that. I'm looking for where I can create an app. So I'm just going to click on at the left right here. I'm going to click on Quick Start, and right here I'm going to scroll down. You can see this is going to be the command I can copy to create a Vue.js project. So I'm going to go to my terminal or my command prompt, and I'm going to see to a folder where I want to have the project right there, and I want the project to be in this folder where my backend is. So I'm going to copy the command, or you can type it out to create a project. I'm going to then pass my project name. I'm going to call that Vue front end like that, and it's going to prompt me for some answer. So should I use TypeScript? Yes. Then I'm going to select the things I want to use right here. I don't want a JSX support. I want a router. So I use the arrow to move down and use the space to select. So click on router. Do I want premium state management? You can click on that. Fight for unit testing. I don't want unit testing. I don't want end-to-end test. linter for error prevention, yes. Prettier for code formatting, yes. So these are what we need. We need the router, we need the pinned state management. We don't want end-to-end testing, we don't want unit testing, we want linter for error prevention and want prettier also to help us format our code. But the most important one are the router right here. Very important, you need this router. So just click on enter, and then this one is saying, should I replace prettier with OXM8? I don't know what this is. Let me see. No need, just click enter. Don't select anyone. And then skip all example code and start with a blank Vue project. You can just set no. When you click no, that's going to, you know, just create a default project for us. So that has been done. Now I'm told to seed into this project folder. Let me do right here. Then run npm install. Copy that and run npm install. That's going to help download the dependencies for those projects properly. And after that, I can run npx run format and then npm run dev to run my project. As this is doing, I'm going to come to my Visual Studio right here. Let me just make sure my backend is running, and I'm going to open a new folder or a new window. And from this window, I'm going to have my project up by coming to the left right here, click on open folder, and then I'm going to locate where that folder was, which is Vue Frontend right here. Click on open, and I'm just going to maximize this stuff right there. And now if I bring my terminal up, I can execute those code right there. Okay, so I can execute the npm install, which is this one right here in my terminal, which is basically the root of my application. So that's basically the same thing. So as this is trying to install, let's get a quick overview of our file structure right here. So we will start from the bottom. We can see this is a Vite config, basically configuration for Vite. So Vite is used to manage our project, which we can use to run our project and like that. So we have the tsconfig node. This is the configuration for our TypeScript, as we selected TypeScript to use. These other ones, they are both configuration for TypeScript, which you can see that's under the tsconfig right here. Now moving this, we have our package.json right here. What the package.json does is contain some information about our project, as we can see here, and it also contains some dependencies. You can see Pinia, Vue router, and it has some dev dependency such as our TypeScript, our Vite, our Vue TypeScript, our some plugins like that, which will help us to run our application in this development mode. Now, if I go up here, you can see the index.html. This is our HTML file. This is what is actually run, right? This is what is run, and all our app is being mounted right here. So if I come to my SROC right here, I come to the app.view. This is our home page, or this is our entire app. And this entire app is what is being mounted in the index right here. Now, if I go to my main.ts, which is the file that controls the app.view, you can see we're importing app.view in the main.ts. You can see right here, I'm basically mounting my application inside this identifier right here, hash app. And this hash app is coming from the index.html. You can see the ID app right here. So it's getting the ID of your entire page and it's mounting your application inside this HTML, which is your index, which is going to run your application. So that's basically what we are happening. And up here, you can see some dummy folders were created for us. We can see the assets. Here we have some styling right there for us. I'm going to remove everything and have our own. If you come to the components right here, you can see we have some icons and some default components for us. We can see the router right here. We have the index.ts and some dummy routes were created for us. You can see the store. This is basically just, more like a counter code. And then the view right here, the view is a page, right? The views. You can see we have the about page or the about view and the home page or the home view. So that's basically how, view work. So in a Vue.js application, the views basically means the page. So when you hear views, we are basically meaning the page. So this views folder right here, it's where we'll be having our page, our to-do page, our add to-do page, our edit to-do page. Those will be in the views right here. Where our router, it's where we register our routes. The route to the home page, the route to the to-do page, to the add to-do page, that will be here. Then our component right here, we can have our navbar and our footer. Then our asset right here is going to contain some our styling like that. Then some global styling will be here. If you want to have images, those will be in the asset. So that's basically our application overview and the structures right here. As we said, the app is where everything is mounted on, which is then carried by the main.ts into the index or HTML, and everything will be run right here. Remember, the browser can read your template, which is basically your HTML code, and then the Java the JavaScript is used to add some functionality to it. So that's basically everything right here. And if I pull my command, okay, I had some errors trying to install that, so I can run that again, npm install, and that's been done right here. So after that's been done, the next thing we are told to do is to run npm run format. So let me copy this, have it up right there. And after that has been done, I'm going to run npm run dev to run my app like that. So if I type it npm run dev, it's going to run my app. Now, if you a little bit confused on how to run your app, you can go to the package.json right here, and you can see if you move up, you can see the script right here, and this is the dev npm run dev. It's going to use Vite to run our application. So that's what we are doing here. So our application is running on port 5173. So if I copy this URL right here and I come here and I paste it, you can see this is it. So where are these coming from? As you rightly saw, these are coming from the app in the source folder, the app.vue. And within the app.vue, we can see we are importing some component like hello world, which is coming from this component right here, hello world, all of this. So I can delete everything right here, everything in my components. I don't need them. Delete everything right there. Delete everything right there. Delete everything. You can see component is empty in our app.vue. Now we don't longer this are no longer there. I can get rid of this and get rid of all of these right here. Get rid of all of this right here. Just get rid of this and can get rid of all the styling right here. Okay, so in the next lecture, we are going to start to have our navbar and footer, and we then head on to have our home page. So I'm just going to head on to remove everything right here in my app.vue. We're going to start to do everything. I can remove these ones, these scripts. I'm going to remove this. For the template, I'm just going to remove this header and leave. I'm just going to leave my router view right here. So the router view, it's where our page will sit on. So whatever pages we have right here in the view, let me remove my about page. We don't need it. Let me remove my home page here. Home view, we don't need it. So whatever page I have in the view, like my home page, to-do page, add to-do page, that will be rendered right here as the router view, as you can see. This basically means your page will sit up right here. Okay, so when we end up having our navbar and footer, those can be placed up right here because those are going to exist in all the pages. So that will be right here within our app, and we have it up right there. Now, before we do that, we have our stuff folder right here. We don't need that. We're going to delete that and delete everything we don't need. In our outset, in our router right here, in the index, I'm going to remove this one right here, or let me just comment it out. I mean, we don't really need that. Let me just comment it out. And where is it? This one too. Let me just comment everything out so we can just type everything from scratch so we guys can see. Okay, so that's it for our route. And in my asset right here, we have our base.css. I can get rid of everything. And we have our main.css, which we are importing the base. I can get rid of everything right here. And we're going to have our own, styling right here. Now, in this main.css, you can see we're importing the base. So if we have any styling in the base, it's going to be imported right here within the main. And where are we using the main.css? If you go to my app.vue, or that should be my main. If you go to my main.ts, you can see we are importing the main.css. So whatever styling we have our base will reflect in the main, and whatever styling we have in the main will be reflected in the main.ts. Remember, the main.ts is what controls the app.vue, or what helps to render and mount the app.vue into the index.html. So enough of a lot of theory, so let's head on to work. And right now, if I come to my app, you can see it's blank because there's really nothing. So if I want to display something right here, I'm just going to come to my app.vue and I can just say h1 and I say hello world, something like that. If I come right here, you can see the hello world is showing. So now let's have our navbar. I'm going to come to my component right here, which is my component folder within my sroc, and I'm going to create a file, call it navbar.vue, navbar.vue, and this is going to contain our navbar. Now, before we head on, I want us to have our global styling, which is going to contain some variable that will be used throughout our application. So I'm going to have that styling to be within our in our main.css within my asset right here. So this is going to contain some global styling which are pre-configured. Again, we don't really want to waste much time, so this is not a specific CSS course. And apart from that, you can easily generate styling code online, or you can ask AI, they can generate styling code for you. The most important thing in modern programming is not to write code, but to be able to understand code. And that's the essence of this course, making us to understand. That's the new direction for software development, understanding what is going on. Code can easily be gotten. So I wrote the code out, and right here, these are the variables which can easily be referenced using this key within our application. You can see we're basically saying this is the root, and these are being injected into the roots of our application. We can access the value by accessing this key right here. Now moving down, I had some few styling up right there and like that. So in my navbar right here, I'm going to do something. Normally, the way Vue works, it is expecting you to have your script tag like that, which is going to be a setup, and if it's expecting to have your script, then your template like that, and then your styling sty. Let me wrap that within sty like that, and within this style, I can say scoped like that. So this is basically the structure of Vue. We have our script right here. This is going to contain our JavaScript code, all our TypeScript code. That's it. Then we have our template. This is going to contain our HTML code. Then we have our style. This is going to contain our CSS code. Now, when we say scoped, we are basically saying that the style that you'll be writing right here should only affect this file right here. So whatever style I have right here is going to be scoped to the navbar, and it's not going to affect your footer or your home page like that, because we're already scoping it only to this file right here. So that is it. And just going to first of all come right here at the script section and have my TypeScript. So we just want to have some function that will help us to toggle the menu. Before I do that, I'm going to open the older project, which is this one. And if I try to view this on a mobile screen, you can see there is this menu right here. If I click on it, it's going to toggle on. If I click on it, toggle off. You want to be able to do this if the user is on a home screen, if on a mobile device. So I'm going to have a method called is menu open. This is going to help detect if menu is open, and then I'm going to have is menu is a toggle menu. So if it's a toggle menu, it's going to display that, and then this is going to be to toggle the menu, and then this is going to be to close the toggle menu. So when the click on toggle menu, it's going to bring those menu up. Let me show you. It's going to, when you say click on toggle menu, it's going to bring this menu up. When you click on close menu, that's you are clicking it the second time, it's going to remove the menu. So that's what this is doing. And also, let's not forget to, you know, to bring our ref. You can see I'm saying ref right here, and the ref I'm not importing it. So click on dot to import it right here. Unfortunately, I cannot import. So yeah, you can import it manually by saying import ref ref from Vue, and that's been imported for Vue. Also, if you want to have the Vue extension, you can come right here to the extension part and search for Vue at the top right here. Let me see, and then you can see the Vue.js official right here. Make sure that it's installed so your code can recognize the Vue syntax like so. Okay, so now let's continue, and then I think this is getting too big, too large. Let me take it a little bit backward, and okay, yeah, so this is going to be our script right here, and then this is going to contain our JavaScript code. Then let's have our template, which is going to contain our HTML. So I'm going to have a little bit of pre-written template out, and that's going to be right here. I'm going to explain what I'm doing, because the important thing is for us to have an explanation. And then let me quickly have my styling up right here within the style. Let me have my styling up right there, like that. Have my styling up right here, like that. So that is it. So this is my style right here, and then my template and my script. So now for the template, I'm basically having this. What I want to do, I want to have something like this, just a navbar that can have some list item, and then basically using the router link, which will help me to navigate when I close this. Okay, now right here, I'm having the home. So when I click on the home, it's going to router link me, navigate me to the home page, which is going to be a slash. If I click on the to-dos, it's going to take me to the to-dos page. That's what the router link does. It's a view tag. When I click on close to do, it's going to add to do. So to say, it's going to take me to the add to do page. So this is basically for us to you know, this is basically to display that menu by having three slashes right here, which is something like this on the mobile view. By having something like these three slashes right here as the menu. That's what this code is all about right here. You can just say button. That's what it's all about, just to toggle the menu. So then this is to close the menu. When you click on it, it's going to say VIF. Again, for those who are new to Vue, this VIF is a conditional statement. When you say VIF, V-if, you're basically saying if it's an if statement, you're saying if this thing is true, then display this entire block of code, display this entire template. If this is false, don't display this template. That's what this is doing. It's a conditional statement saying if this value right here is true, then this entire div will be displayed. If this is not true, this entire div will not be displayed. So that's it for conditional statement. This is how conditional statements are written in Vue. Now, if I come to the page or the project, you can see if I refresh, nothing is going on right here. Why? Because I'm not I'm not displaying this the navbar. Remember, the app.view page is where things are displayed. If it is not a link you want to display stuff, you should either display that thing in a specific page or you come right here and display it. Because the navbar and the footer are going to exist throughout our application, they should be placed in the app.view. So I'm going to come to the app.view right here, app.view, and at the top right here where I had my H1 and some kind of crazy stuff came up here, I'm going to display my nav right here by basically just saying nav bar. That's been imported for me, and boom, you can see that's been imported for me, and that's it. So if I come, you can see the nav bar is showing up right here. Now right here you can see it's giving me this kind of a warning, which is a warning telling me that could not find a declaration file for this. That's because I'm basically strictly saying that this should be language should be TypeScript. So if I want this warning to be out, I'm just going to get rid of this language equals to TS, and then it's going to be out. That's because it's expecting this navbar to have like a data type, something like this. I mean, expecting to have like a data type, which I mean, it's not really, we're not doing that. So in order to avoid that, I'm just going to, this language TS right here, it's a warning, it's not anything. I'm just going to get rid of that, and then it's then going to be able to read both a TypeScript and a JavaScript kind of import. Okay, so that's it. And let's head on to have the footer. So for the footer, within the same component right here, I'm going to create a footer by right clicking on a new file and call it footer.view. And again, that is expected to have, the script right here. Then you have your template, and then you have your styling or your style like that right there. Now I'm just going to head on to have this should be scoped. Let's not forget to make this scoped, and for our script it should be a setup. Now let me quickly head on to have my CSS styling right here of the footer, and that's going to be have styled right there. And then move down, let me move this to the left a bit. And then let's have, we don't really want to do much. We basically just want to display the current year below the correct art. And then let me have my template right here, which is just going to be my template like so. And just have it up right there. So again, this is a little bit straightforward too. This is my template. It's basically a HTML code, and I'm basically just displaying some link right there and some beautiful style. Again, if we come right here, you can't see it because it's not been registered. So come to the app.view right here, and we want our footer to be below our page. So this is our page right here. This is our number at the top, and then my footer is going to be below wherever the page is being displayed. I'm going to come right here and say footer, my footer, sorry, so to say, and then this footer has been placed right here. So if I come right now, you can see the footer is being placed right here. But right now, it's kind of a little bit, you cannot see the page because we do not have any page currently. So we're just going to head on to have our home page. Now, before we do that, I'm just going to put in something right here so we can get to see that the footer is being displayed down. Let me say H1. Let me say body. Something like body. You can say body like that. That means the footer is displayed below the page. Okay. So now we're going to head on to have our home page, and that is going to be done within my views right here. So within my views right here, I'm going to create my home page. So for the home page, it's going to be the view, and within the view folder, I'm going to create a new file, call it home.view. You can call it anything, but home is more appropriate. And I'm going to have, let's get to see the older design so we can, get to see what to expect. And let me try to format this one. Okay. Yep. So now this is our home page. This is how it wants to look. We just want to display some beautiful stuff right here. There are no styling. There are no, you know, JavaScript stuff, just your template and then your styling. So let's get to do that. And right here within the home.view, I'm going to have my template. And then let me get rid of this extra code right here and this comma right here. Then I'm going to have my style, and that's going to be scoped right there, means that it's going to affect this file only. So let's have our styling first, and let me just have it up right down. And this is going to be my styling right here. Very easy peasy. So move down, and my template is going to be up here. Remember, we don't have our script. We won't be needing to have a a TypeScript or JavaScript code, so you can exclude the script file. So if you're not expecting to have a style, you can exclude the style. If you're not expecting to have a script, you can exclude the script. So for the template right here, we want to first of all have this hero section, and that's going to be, I'm going to grab that. First of all, let me wrap everything within a home div. That's going to be div, and class is going to be home. And then I'm going to have my section right there. And then that's going to be the first part. And the second section is going to be the little kind of funny stuff right here. It's going to be this stuff about our to-do app. And that's going to lie in this second part right here. This other second part. So that's it. And we are going to, if I come right here, you can see, let me go to the app, you can see it's not displayed because we've not registered the route. Now, if you remember when we created our app, we saw that we had a route for us, and the router for us also had the index.ts where we are expected to register our route. So whatever page we have, we're going to register them right here. So within your routes right here, we're going to register our routes, and that's going to be, we already had two examples right here that we can use either of them. I can comment them back, and then I can just call this home and then import it right there. Yeah, so you can either do this or import it like this. So I can type this out. Do I need to type it out? No. So I don't need to type it out. So let me just say slash home, or the path is slash, or this one, let me just call this home, and then this is going to be home dot view. Yeah, so these are the two-way to let me remove these ones right here, that kind of junks. And these are the two-way you can register a path. You can either say you must have your path, your name, and your component. You can either import the component by importing the component like this and then passing the component name, or you can use an arrow function to import it directly. So these are the two examples. They are basically the same thing. It just depends on your preference. For me, I like this one, but I think Vue favors this more because it's going to import the component on the go when it's needed. While this one right here is going to import all the component down when you run your app. And whenever you move to the page, that is going to be there because it has already been imported. So this one is a little bit faster, not like faster. They are both the same thing, but a little like microseconds. While this other one is more optimized because it imports the page when you go to that page. It doesn't import it down. So that's the difference between both of these. But again, Vue favors this more. We are being advised to use this more because we load your home page on the go, while this one preload everything down. But I prefer using this one because the code is a little bit shorter and a little bit more organized. Okay. Now that this has been done, I'm going to pull my terminal. Just going to stop it and start it again just to be sure it's running properly and I'm not getting errors. You can see I'm getting this error right here. Base is empty. Import this right here. Okay. So that's going to be within my asset and it's telling me that I'm importing a base right here, which is empty. I can just come right here and pass a code and just say, yeah, just passing. I just say, I don't know, just passing it. Just say margin, let's say 0 for everything. So that's just going to help remove that error importing the base. Because I don't want to get rid of this one, I just want you guys to also get to see that code. So if I Control C and run that again, that one is gone. So let's go back. And now this is our app which is running on 5173. And then you can see this is our home page. Now, if you look at the top right here, you can see there's this Vite app, which I don't want. So let's change that. I'm going to do that by coming to the index.html. Remember the index.html, it's what is the file that is run on your browser. Your browser actually only recognizes the HTML code. So in as much as we have a .vue, everything right here is being bundled and placed inside and run inside the HTML. So this is basically what we are running. Now within this, that's where the Vite app is coming from. Let's change that to like to do app, and then you can see it as we change to do app right there. Okay, that's the title of the project. So we can also change our icons by changing this right here to a custom icon. If you have a custom icon, have the location of where the icon is, and that's going to be displayed right there instead of the v. So this v is the favicon.ico, and where is this coming from? That's coming from the public right here, and the favicon.ico, this one, which is being displayed right here. So again, this is our home page. We're going to head down to have the Todos page that will display all our to-do, and from there we'll have to add and then to edit a to-do. Now let's have our Todos page. So I want to do something like this. Want to do something like this, a page that can display your to-do, and you're going to be having a button to delete the to-do, and also you have a button to take you to the edit page. So let's have this up and right down to my code. I'm going to head on within my SROC folder to my views, as that is a page. So click on the views, click a new file and call that todos.view. And again, as our custom is, you have to declare your script tag where you have your script. You then move down to have your template tag where you have your template, and then you also have your style tag. And this time around, as usual, let's scope it, and this is going to have your CSS. So let's quickly have our CSS down, and then we head on with our script so we can be a little bit faster. Now this is going to have my CSS right here, and within my script at the top, I want us to use TypeScript. So you can actually do that by saying, let's just first of all say setup and then say language lang equal to ts. So by specifying language equals to ts, this is going to make use of TypeScript. It's going to read your code it's going to recognize your code as a TypeScript. So first I want to first of all have a variable to hold my to-dos by saying ref, and ref should be imported from the view, and I'm going to say ref, and this is expected to have my to-do which I've not created, and then I'm going to then say it's going by default. I'm just going to make it an empty to-do like that. Now before I head on to have my to-dos page, I need to have my service page, which is going to contain the API for me to make call to my back end to get my data. So for us to have that service, I'm going to come to my source folder and create a new folder, call it services like that. And I'm going to create a file called to do service. That's going to contain all the methods we'll be needing to get to-do data from our DB. We'll contain method to add a to-do, to edit a to-do, to update, to delete, to get all our to-dos. So these are basically API methods. So let me close all of this right here first. Close all of this. So now within the service right here folder, I'm going to create a class, a file called to-do service.ts. And right here, I'm going to first of all define my base URL, which is going to be my backend URL. I'm just going to call that API base URL, and that's going to be HTTP. It's a local host, which is going to be localhost, and our port is running on 8085, something like that. And I'm going to first of all, I want to have my API response, like API response interface, and then my to-do interface also, which will help me, structure my data correctly as we are using TypeScript, as you can see, .ts. Now, our to-do is expected to have an ID, title, description is completed. These are basically exactly what we have as our to-do data in our backend. And then ID, title also. Then our API response is going to be in this format as we saw when we were having our backend. Now, I'm going to create my methods by exporting it on the go by saying export const is going to call it to do service and equal to have a dictionary or an object that's going to contain the methods for making API call. Now let's have our first method, which is going to be to get all to do's, and that's going to be get all to do's, and that's going to return a promise and of type to do array of to do by saying to do array like that, and it's going to contain I'm going to be using fetch to, make that call. Also, you can actually use Axios. You can, if you go to your dependency right now, you can see I'm not really having much dependency. So if you want to use Axios to make API call, it's very easy. You can use Axios. Let me go to their documentation. Where is it again? Okay, this one right here. You can go Axios, npm install Axios, and then it's very easy to use the library to make API call. It's more shorter than what I'm doing right here. It's shorter than this fetch right here, but no problem. So this is going to make a get request to my API to do route, and I'm going to get the response. I'll save it as API response, and then if it's not okay, I'm going to throw this error right here. If it's okay, I'm going to extract the data from the API response, and then that's going to be an array of to do, which is going to be the data, and I'm going to return it. As we can see, we are returning right here. Now let's also have to get a to do by ID, put in a comma right here, because this is an array of methods. It's an object of methods, as you can see. And this method will help us get a to do by ID. We are making the API call to the /to-do. We are passing the ID down, and it's going to make an API call, a get request. We're going to receive the response, and we are returning the response right here. They also have to create a to-do, which is going to be this one right here. To create a to-do, we are passing the to-do title and description. We're bundling, then we can see we are bundling it into an object. We can see JSON.stringify. We are bundling it into an object, and then we are passing it down to, we're making a post request. You can see the method here is post to our backend to create a to-do. Similar way, we're going to have to update and then to delete a to-do. So it's basically the same thing. This time around, to update a to-do is going to be a put request, as we rightly specify in our backend, and to delete a request, the method will be a delete. Now, having this method, we can call this method from our views, which is our pages, and it will perform the necessary operation. Now we'll head back to our Vue.to-do and then have our to-do page. Now, in continuation of the Todos page, I'm going to first of all import this to do right here by saying import from our API service, which you can see the interface we have right there. And then I'm going to also just want to have a method to say it's loading. If it's loading, we can do something. And then if it's loading, we can say loading data. If it's not loading, or do I really need to do that? I don't think I need to do that. I just want things to be simple so we will not complicate issue. So let me get rid of that it's loading and then just head on to have our to display our error and then to show our modal to delete and then to open our modal. So I'm just going to have them right up right here. So for this error right here, if we have any error during API call, we're going to save the error right here and then we'll display it. Is modal open? Want to be able to use this method to also bring in a modal where we can delete a todo. So when you click on delete, it's going to click on open the modal. When you click on yes, it's going to delete that and close the modal. So we'll be saving to check if the modal is in an open state or if it's in a closed state. So that's what this is going to be doing. Okay. So now also in continuation, I'm going to be having what we call unmounted. I want to display all the data. So if somebody comes to this to-dos page for the first time, I want to display all the to-dos for the person. So we're going to be using a state management or a lifecycle method called unmounted like that. And let me import that from the, where is it? That should be imported from Vue. So this Vue right here, the unmounted, comma unmounted, unmounted. So now if you can see there are different lifecycle events for a component in Vue. We can have the unmounted, unactivated, before mount, undeleted, undeactivated, unrender, a lot of stuff right there. So there are a lot of stuff and we don't really, might not really touch all of them today, but the unmounted is a very important method that is run whenever your component is mounted. So whenever a user navigates to get to this page at the first time, the unmounted function is run, and whatever we have within this function right here is going to be executed. Now, I want to have a function called fetch to dos, and this will be called whenever this component is mounted or whenever a user comes to this page for the first time. So I'm going to come down right here and have the method called fetch to do by saying fetch to do an async, and we'll be using an await right here. So let me just have it up so we can be a little bit faster, like so, like that. So I'm going to bring the to-do service. So what I'm doing right here is that I'm basically fetching the to-do by using the to-do service to get all my to-do, get the data, and then, and then set it to the value of this right here. So the ref, for those who don't know what the ref is a special method that helps to manage a state by helping us to keep save data within the state of that component. So I can decide to come right here and say const to do, let me say any, or I can even say to do array, which is going to be a to do array, and I can say equal to, let's just say an empty array. Then when I make an API call to get to do, I just call it to do's. When I make an API call to get to do, I can save the thing right here. So this is also going to work, but the problem with this is that it's going to be consistent and it can lead to data leakage. So the better way for us to do that is using the ref, which helps to prevent data leakage and helps to manage or dispose our data when that component has been unmounted or when the state of that component has been changed. So basically just for you to a better way for you to create your variable to hold data. That's what the ref does. Okay. Now, so that's it. So let's head on to have a method, to trigger a modal open. When you click on a delete like that, want to open the modal and pass the ID right there. And then when you click on confirm delete, you want to run this method, which is going to make an API call to delete our data, and when that is done, we are waiting to delete the to-do. If this is done, are we deleting the to-do? We want to close the modal by having the method down to say close modal. So that is it. Very simple and straightforward. And I'm just going to head on to have a template. So again, the template is going to be a little bit faster. So I'm going to do that right away so we can save some time. So this is a template right here. It basically has a button. Remember the router link, it helps us to navigate to that page, as you rightly saw. When you click on the add to do, it's going to take you to the / add to do page, which is to this page. If there's error, this is going to display the error. And here I'm using v if. Means that if this is a conditional statement in, as you rightly saw, say if there's error, display this entire div and it's going to display the error. Else, if there's no error, check if the length of the to-dos. Remember, we've gotten the to-do from the DB, from our backend. That's the appropriate word. Check if the length of the to-dos array is 0. And if it's 0, show no task yet or create your first task to get started. Now, if else right now means if this is false, then that means that the to-do length object is greater than 0, which means there is a to-do item. Then this is going to display the to-do item for us right here. And you can see in this line 76, I'm using the v-for. This is basically a for loop conditional statement. And what this means is that I'm saying for this to do, which we've gotten for our database, loop over it or map over it and save each individual data as to do. We can say to do in to do's, save each individual item as to do. You can call this anything. You can just call this anything. It's not a problem. We are looping over these to-dos, which is this array of to-dos we've gotten from our DB. Loop over that, call that anything you like. For me, call it to-do. It's more descriptive. And then you display the data by saying to-do.title, you get that title. To-do.description, you will get that description. Again, before I display the description, I'm saying that if description exists, then display this description. If it does not exist, then don't display it. So we can see next Vue, not next. Vue is a very simple and sweet framework that we can use to build our UI. Again, I have the edit button and the delete. If you click on the delete, as you rightly saw, we trigger the open modal, which will help to bring this modal up. Something like this modal up. You pass in our to-do ID. When you click on yes, delete, it's going to trigger the delete and remove that to-do and close the modal. This is going to be to edit a to-do. When you click on that, it's going to pass the to-do ID to the edit page where the to-dos will be edited. So all of these, both the edit and the add to-do page, will be done in subsequent lecture. Now, if I come right here to test this out, where is it? And I come to the home and I say, click on the to-dos right here. You can see nothing is happening because I have not registered this route. For me to do that, I'm going to go to the router right here, the router page. I'm going to copy this right here and then just call the path to-dos, which is what we expected. And then the name can just be to-dos. Let me just change this name to home. And then the component is going to be the to-dos right here. These to-dos right here. And that has been imported. No. So let me import that. Okay, yeah. When you are using this import, you are directly importing it. You don't need to import it directly from the top right here. So this is going to bring the to-dos when we go to the to-dos page. Now if I come right here and come to the home, let me see. Home is not working. Okay, let me check what's going on right here. Control C and start again. Okay, it has started. And click on the home. That's not working because I'm using double identifier right here. I'm just going to call this name home B, something like that. Okay, now that's working again. So if you should not have the name identifier should not be the same. Yeah, so you should just have different ones. Now again, that's what if I click on the to-dos right here, to-dos, again, that did not work. Let me inspect. Click on to-do, did not work. Let me say slash to-dos It did not work. Okay, let me check what error I'm getting. Okay, I'm not really, this is not showing me the right error. Let me see. Slash to do's is not, something is really wrong. I think the part, let me see my view right here. To do's the view, and let me, first of all, let me see, import views dot to do's, which is this one. Okay, and I'm not getting a specific error why it's not working. Home is working, to do's is not working. Okay, let me check my path again. Let me see the route. So let me try this other route right here. Let me get rid of this for first. Let me comment that out and let me see. To do's. Let me check my specs right here. Let me check my console and see the requested route to do does not provide an export. Okay, this is telling me that that route does not have an export. So that means that I had a problem when typing my to-do. So let me go to the to-do service right here, to-do service.ts. Come back to that. I can bring this down. To-do service.ts, and you can see export const to do service. Okay, yeah, I'm exporting it. So what's the problem? I'm exporting it. So refresh again, click on view my task, and services slash to do.ts does not provide an export name. Okay, export name to do. Okay, so the error still persists. I'm just going to copy the error right here and ask my AI what the problem is. I'm just going to come to my AI right here and then ask AI what the problem is, and just copy my service right there. Let me just go to a new page, and this is the syntax error. It's right here. Paste it there, have your service right there, and then have my to do. Let me just copy this import right here. So that's just all I need. Yeah. Although I already know what the problem is, just to be sure, I'm importing this by using the art, which I already saw when I just looked at this code. But for those who might not be able to figure this out, it's best to just ask AI, and then it's going to tell you what the problem is. So let's look at what this is it. You can see it's telling me that inside my to-do, I should import them separately, as you can see right here. So let me just copy this, both of them, and come right here, which are then import them separately like that, which is the both of them are separate. And then if I come to check, let me refresh, click on to-dos, you can see I'm able to get my to-dos right here, which is working correctly. Now, if you don't want to do this, let me show you another way you can do it. If you want to import both of them at the same time, you can use the absolute part by saying import to do service, to do service. Instead of using the at, you can use the absolute part by saying dash dash slash services slash to do. Right here, you can also import the to do as well at the same time. Now, if I pull my terminal up and I run again, and I click on home, to do's, okay, it's not working because I didn't add a type to this to do. So let me say type, and I need to type because I'm basically add a type to do onto it, and then go to the to do's. It's still not working. I think it need to rebuild. So let me stop this and start again. Okay, that's running now. If I click on view my task, you can see that worked. Home to do is working. So make sure you add your type because this is a type. And then, you know what? Let me try this also. Let me see if this is going to work. Try that also. Okay, that also worked. So I'm not expecting this to work because, okay, I think this also worked, adding a type to this. Okay, that also worked correctly. So let's just use that. Okay, let me just be sure because I don't want code that's not going to work. Run that again and let me refresh this, hot refresh. Boom. To do's, yeah, it worked correctly. So I think the type, let's, you know, just do that. I think that also worked. So yeah, so that's it for the to-dos page. We'll head on to have a page so we can add a to-do. Now for us to add a to-do, it's going to be a simple page, something like this. Just a simple form where you can pass in your title and description. And then when you submit, it's going to add the to-do to the existing one. So let's get that done. I'm going to bring this down and close this up right here. And within my SROC right here, within my pages right here, I'm going to create a new file, call it add to do.vue as always. And here is going to have our script. And again, want to make use of TypeScript right here. So I'm just going to set it up and then type the language to be TS TypeScript. And then we're going to have our templates, and then one also have our styling, which is going to be scoped to this page only, like that. So again, as our custom is, want to first of all have our styling set up. That's going to be styling like that, which is our styling first. And then I'm going to have my script, which is going to be, first of all, this is going to be to add a to-do. And then I want to first of all bring my router so that by the time I'm done adding a to-do, it will navigate me away to the get to the auto this page, to the to-dos page. So let's have that, and that can be done. If you're on a code, you use your router. If you're not on a code, if you're on a template, as you rightly saw right here, if you're on a template and you want to navigate to a page, you use the router link right here. That's within a template block. If you're within a script block, which is your JavaScript, you use the use router, which I'm going to bring up right here. Use router, and if I click on, that should be done within my script right here. Use router, if I click on dots, it's going to import it from the Vue router. So very important where we are importing from. Now I'm going to have my title and description, which is going to hold the value of the title and description the user is typing in. And again, we're using our ref, which is going to help us to manage our state data, importing in from the Vue. And then I'm just going to, have what we call to hold our error. And then the is submitting. This is going to help us to display, let's say, submitting, and then disable our button when we are in the submitting state. Now, I'm going to have a method to handle submit by saying const handle submit, and that's going to be an async. And then I'm going to have my method right there to help handle submit. And first of all, I want to check if the title is not there. I want to return empty. But if that is there, I'm going to make a call to my backend to submit the data by using my to-do service, which I'm importing from the to-do service like so. This is going to submit my data. And when that is done, we're basically saying router.push to-dos. What this means is that we're using the router right here, which we brought in. When you say router.push, we're basically navigating to this corresponding page, which is the to-dos page. If there's any error, we are basically, displaying it, and we're basically setting the submitting to be false, so we can then re-enable our button or, just to free it. So that's what we are doing. And then I'm going to have the template right away, so we'll not again waste much time. So this is going to be our template up right now. And it's a simple form. As we can see right here, it's a form. And submit means that if you click on the submit, it's going to trigger the handle submit right there, which you can see the type of is submit. So if you click on the submit, the handle submit method, which is this one, will be triggered. And we are basically within the form, we are having our input right here, which is going to be the title. I can see it says a placeholder that says task title. Then the other one is going to be the description, and we're using the text area, which is a tag in Java in HTML. Now, if you look at this place right here, there's what we call a Vue model. So this is what we call two-way data binding in Vue. It helps you to bind data in two ways, in the sense that when you are typing in your title, it's going to be stored in this title field right here. And at the same time it's being stored, it's going to also be displayed right here in the input. So as you are typing something right here, you can see whatever I'm typing is being returned to me. So that's two-way data binding. As I'm typing it, it's saving up and the data is being returned to me as I can see them right here. So that's what Vue model is used for, and that will help us two-way data binding to receive the data, save it, and it's being displayed to me. So that's it for that. And again, we won't be able to access that page if I click on add. It's not there because we've not registered it. So for us to do that, I'm going to come to my router right here, go to the index. I'm going to copy this, everything right here, paste it, and the part is going to be called add. We call this add to do, and then this is going to be called, what do I call this? Add to do. So again, you can start and stop this just to be sure things are correct. And then if I come to my add to dos page, you can see it reloaded. So come back to my home, come back to my to dos, click on add to do. You can see this is it. So for now we have 3 to dos. So let me add a new one. I'm going to say newly added to do, and then description, just newly added. Click on create to do, we can see newly added to do. If I click on delete, the delete is not working, so which means our modal is not working, which is, let me inspect to see the problem, inspect console, and click on delete. Nothing is happening, so let's fix that. I'm going to go back to my that's our to-dos page right there. That's where our method is, and then move down to the confirm delete. You can see the confirm delete is not big code, so I'm not calling the confirm delete, so we need to fix that. I'm going to copy it right here, and right here when we say, where is it? So I didn't even have that modal up, so the modal was not even up. So let me have the modal up. I forgot to bring the modal. So moving down, I'm going to bring the modal up. This is specific modal that will be displayed. So now the modal is up. Let's try that again. You can see it's not there. If I click on delete, the modal has come off. If I click on cancel, it will take me back. So let's actually delete it. Yes, delete, and that is gone. Okay, let me delete this one. That is gone. Delete this one is gone. Delete this one is gone. So we currently have no task, as you can see. Let's again add some fresh task. Let me say to watch Spain versus, let's say, France. Okay, and then just say just to have fun. Click on create to do. That's been added. Let me add more. So let me say buy. Let me say to buy grocery. Let me just add it like that, and that is there. And then I can add the last one, say to study for a pilot program. Then just say to further my edu career, something like that. I don't know. And those have been added. So right now, if I click on the edit, you can see not is happening the edit page. So let's have that page so we'll be able to edit a to-do item. So let's have to edit a to-do. Now, it's basically similar to adding a todo. They're basically the same form where you can use two-way data binding and save your and call the edit method. And the difference is that when you are editing, you can see at the URL right here, we have the ID right here. So the first thing we have to do is to extract this ID from the parameter and then make an API call to get it to do by ID, then display the existing data where the user can see. He can decide to update and then save and update. So let's do that. Within my Visual Studio Code, I'm going to click close all of these, and in my views page, remember the views is the page, we're going to create a new file called edit-todo.view. Again, this can be called anything. So I'm going to have my script as we rightly saw, then have my templates, then have my style. And again, we can scope this to this project. So as we already saw, I'm going to have my styling up first so we can focus on the other ones. So that's my style. And then I'm going to head on to the script right here. Also want to, have our language to be TypeScript. So I'm just going to say setup language to be TypeScript right there. And then I'm going to first of all, bring my router like that, and then my route. So there's a router which is help us to navigate, and then there's also a route which we can use to scan our URL and then get hold of the key or the value at the top. So let's have both of them. So the first one will be the router, which will help us to navigate, and the second one will be the route. So let me import both of them from Vue router, and this other one is also coming from the Vue router like that. So this one, let me add a comment and say this is to navigate, then this is to scan the URL and extract data like that. So, okay, now for me to get hold of the value, which is the ID right here, it should be referred to as, I'm going to get hold of the key which I will use to get the value. So I want the key to be called ID. So if the key is called ID, I'm just going to say route, this one dot params, then dot ID. So it's going to get hold of the value 12, which is the ID. So that's going to be stored as ID. And then let me also quickly have, feeds that will help me save values. So I'm just going to have this up right here. We have the title. Let me import the ref. We have the title to hold the title value, the description to hold the description value. We want to have the is completed, which is going to show if, just help us to also update the completed status. We have the error if there's error, and then is submitting if we are resubmitting the data. So I'm going to say is mounted. So I'm just going to come right here and say during the mounted state, when the component is just mounted, I want to have a method, just have my functions right here, or have my implementation to make an API call to fetch a data by ID. So I'm just going to have that. You can extract that by having a method say fetch, let's say fetch to do by ID, and then come down right here to say fetch. Let me do something like this. Then come down right here to say fetch to do. Let me even import the unmounted first. Import the unmounted from, unmounted should be imported from Vue. So let me just say unmounted. And then I come right here and say fetch to do by ID, and then just have my stuff right there, or I can just do everything together, basically the same thing. So let's just have it right there. So again, it's going to use our to-do service to get to do by ID and pass the ID that we extracted from our route. Pass the ID down, get to do by ID, save the title data in the title feed, save the description in the description ref, and then its completed value, save it right there. And then we can then display this to the user. And when the user is updating it, we can also come back here to replace. So that's going to be done when the component is mounted, which means when the user just comes to this place, want to get the to do by ID and display. They also want to have a method to handle a submit. So when the user is done editing, it's going to click on submit, and this method is called. Basically similar to when we were adding it to do. What are we doing? We want to make sure that the title is there, and then we're just going to bundle the pass the title and description and the is completed down to the update to do method. And then if it's successful, here we can say we are pushing. Let me add comment to say we are navigating to the to-dos page. So if it's successful, we are navigating to this to-dos page. Okay. So if there's error, we are, saving the error. Finally, if submitting is going to be false, so that submitting, we can re-enable the button. Now for our template, let me move this down, move this up a bit. For our template, I'm going to have my template right away. It's going to be easy peasy. So that's going to be something like this. Or something like this in my template, and get rid of this. So that's my template, and it's very simple. It's just the update page where you can see the form, and when you submit, it's going to trigger the handle submit. Again, right here you can see I'm using the two-way data by the core Vue model, which means that it's going to keep an eye on this data, on this feed right here. Whatever I have right here will be updated, and whatever I type in will also go and update right there in the variable. So that is it. It's very easy. And for me to display this, I need to come to my route right here and register it. And that can be done easily by coming right here. Let me come right here, copy this right here, paste it, and call this edit to do. And this is going to be called edit to do. And then the path is going to be, remember, this is the path right here. Let me copy the path right here. That's going to be slash to do's slash this 12 right here will no longer be 12. It's now going to be called a variable, which is going to be double column ID. So whatever value you type right here is going to be the value you are extracting right here. So this is going to be the key right here, key. So if I call this XX, that means what I have in my router here is going to be here is going to be SX, like that. So, but this is not the, yeah. So let's just try that. So if I come and say to do, edit to do, you can see it's displaying, right? Let me just say edited. This is the new one. You can see edited right here. So, but using XX as a is not really cool. So better just use ID, which is more readable. So come right here and then change this to ID. So that's it for how it's done, and when you go to that page, it's going to extract that ID and then display it. So let me add a new one to say, so play crickets. And then let me just say to strengthen my strength. Create to do, that's been added to play ticket. If I edit it right here, I can say to play cricket, let's say at evening. And then edit, that has been edited to play cricket at evening. I can edit again and mark as completed. You can see it as a completed. Let me mark this other one to study for a pilot program as completed, and both has been completed. So this is it for our edit to do, and all our code has worked correctly. And I'm going to leave a link for this so you guys can go over the code and do your stuff. Now, before we head out, let's have a wildcard. So currently, if I type anything right here at my URL, you can see it takes me to, it tries to find that page, and if it's not there, it kind of displays some my navbar footer, which is weird. So I don't really like this. So if peradventure the user type in a path or a route that does not exist, we want to return the user to, let's say, a home page or our own custom page. So let's do that. And I'm going to come to back to my route right here, in my route right here, and I'm going to have it right here. I'm just going to call it wildcard, something like that. So again, I'm just going to copy everything right here. It is basically a route also, so we don't have nothing to worry about. And the part right here is going to be different, and the part is going to be, if it's going to be slash, put in a column and say part, this is a regex, it's a regex part match, like that, capital M, part match. If it matches anything that does not exist, say dot slash and dot star and star. If the part matches anything that is not within what we have right here, that means that that part is a little bit not, we don't know what it is. Let me just call this wild. If the card matches the part we don't know, I'm just going to return the user back to the home page. Something like home.view, like that. So let's try this out, and I'm going to come back again to my route and say slash, some kind of crazy stuff out right there, enter. You can see is back to the home page. So if I want this to go to the add to do page, which is not appropriate, so if I type in anything, it goes to the add to do page. If I type in anything, it goes to the add to do page. So that's basically it. Let's take it back to the home page. But in a more, broader system, you need to have your custom 404 page. So you can come to your, that's going to be an assignment. So you can come to the view and create, say, not found page dot view, like that. And then you have your script, and then you have your template, and then you have your, let's say, style, which is going to be like scoped, something like scoped. Then in your template right here, you can just have your beautiful design that's going to say not found, like that. And I don't know. So if you can come back right here and just call this, say, not found, not found page, something like that. I don't know if this is properly spelled. View slash not found page. Let me see. Yeah, it's there. So again, this is going to be set up and like that. So if I come right here and search for a crazy stuff, let me see, localhost 51, that was 51, I don't know, 73, and I go to slash some crazy stuff, you can see this is not found page. It was not beautifully done, so I'm just going to delete it and allow you guys to have your own custom beautiful design while I revert mine to my home page, like that. So that's it. So that's going to be it, and we'll meet in subsequent courses. Now, one final stake, I just want to show you guys something. In the app dot, where is it again? In our root page, in the app.view, when we try to import this stuff, when our language right here was TypeScript, and we can saw that both of these were yelling at us because these are both JavaScript stuff. So if you want to leave your language to be TypeScript right here, while importing this is what you do. You should make both of these components TypeScript as well. So you can do that easily by going to your navbar, and at the top right here of the script, you're basically just going to say language to be TypeScript TS, and you can see that error will be gone. Go for the footer also. At the top of the script, say language to be TypeScript. So again, that might not go immediately. So just, let's just, let me stop this right here and then import it again so it can be imported properly. Okay, that has even been done. So if I run my app, npm run dev, and you can see the error is gone. So you can also do it this way, which is probably more better. If you want your language to be strictly TypeScript, leave it right here at TypeScript. Now for each of these components, make the script language to be TypeScript. Also do that for the navbar, the language should be TypeScript. Footer, the language should be TypeScript, and then you can leave this language TypeScript right here. Then those warning will be gone. So that's just what I want us to show, and we are finally done now.